many months ago, I've read these verses before as part of this Keep Going series, but we're going to come back to it because we talked about these verses in Bible study tonight, in the Bible study that I'm in, and I hadn't considered something. So I always like to unpack things further when I read a verse and it hits me a little different. So tonight on night 345, we're going to read Matthew chapter 6, verses 31 through 34. And we've all heard these before, but it says, and Jesus is talking here, he says, "So do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the pagans run after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." And when I've read through those few verses in the past, I always go to the very last verse that I read. Like that one was always the one that was stuck out to me the most. Therefore, don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. But verse 32 hit me a little bit different tonight as I was contemplating what Jesus was saying here, where he's saying, again, in verse 31, don't worry, saying, what shall we eat, what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? Because, again, in verse 32, which is what I'm keying in on here, he says, for the pagans run after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. And when I think about pagans, what hit me is the last Bible study that I did with the group that I'm in, where they were talking about the book of John, how Jesus is the great shepherd, and how you can identify a true shepherd versus a hired hand. And the hired hand, when calamity and when adversity strikes, the hired hands scatter, but the true shepherd is the one that will stay the course. The true shepherd, like, we're known by the way that we act in adversity. And are we going to lay things at the feet of God, or are we going to scatter, run, stress, internalize, and not give those things to God? And when I think about the pagans there in verse 32 of Matthew chapter 6, he's saying, like, the pagans just run after all of these earthly things. And I just imagine, like, this picture that's being painted of, like, the pagans are running from one stress to the next, worried about how they're going to secure enough money for X, Y, and Z, and how they're going to make all these meetings and all these events work, and they're stressed about what other people are thinking about them and how they're going to pull everything together, and it's like a hamster wheel of one worry to the next. They're blowing in the wind, just a feather in the wind, because they don't have, like, the backbone. They don't have the sturdiness of God to rely on. So yes, like, don't worry about what we should eat, drink, or wear, because we don't want to be like the pagans. And if you don't know what that word means, the pagans are like the people that are not spiritual, people that don't believe in God. Be solid, be steady, because not because of our own minds or our own thoughts, but because we're relying on God and not ourselves. That's what hit me tonight. Matthew chapter 6, verses 31 through 34. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will worry about itself. Day 345.